This is the first time back in the States for you for a few years.
It is.
No big reason, sure.
I love that was just the beginning, like bang.
Well, how's the road treating you?
It's great. It's been, I mean, as you say, our last trip in the States was 2018, and then our last international run was in Japan with Phil Anselmo and the Illegals, and that was January 2020. So pretty much we got home, and then they shut the borders about 3 weeks later. So it was kind of good to have a bit of a break, to be honest, at the start, but then it dragged on for a bit longer than probably expected. So yeah, it's just been so great to be back in the States in particular, because we've been through here so many times, and it's great to see, I guess, people at your shows, they remember us, which is nice. Plus, we've had essentially three different tours that we're on, doing our own stuff. We did a bunch of shows with friends of ours, Weed Eater, we've toured with before, and then obviously this epic fucking, experience of getting to do open air stadium shows with bloody Pantera.
You guys, one of the things I wanted to talk about is, and I'm not sure if you talked about it a lot, but you have, like a special kinship with Phil, and I was wondering how that came about.
Yeah, so it came about, obviously, I think if you know Phil and Pantera well enough, I Hate God, Phil's always been a massive fan of that band, and then going back to, I think it must have been 2013 or 2014, I'm probably going to get my dates wrong, but we played a festival called the Cherry Rock Festival down in Melbourne with I Hate God as the headliners, and they caught our show. We loaded them up with records and stuff. Mike Nine at the time, their singer, was living at Phil's place, and very thankfully, I guess, just spread the word. I know that Youngie, our singer, had actually already sent stuff to Phil and Kate, but I think they had actually seen it and looked at the name, but never actually. I'm sure they get sent a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's how it started, and I think I remember Youngie saying, I just got an email from Phil Anselmo, and he's like, at first he's like, fuck off, that's not real. But it went from there. So down, we're playing on a festival down in Australia that we were on, where we got to meet Phil and the rest of those crew, Pepper and Jimmy and everyone, and next minute they were saying, okay, well, get ready, you're actually going to walk on stage and play the bass with Down for one of their last songs. So that was pretty epic. And we were already booked to head out over here on our first tour, and at that point we were just somewhere fairly close, but like a couple of hours away from New Orleans, and Youngie stayed in touch with Phil, and he came to a show. He invited us back to his house. We stayed there the night. Since then, we're signed to his record label. He produced one of our albums a couple of years back, and it's just been an amazing support. Yeah, just really, we've met a lot of great people through those guys. We've been on some amazing tours with both Phil and other bands as a result of Phil, and we've had a chance to bring him back to Australia as well. We've toured Japan and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's very great. Even in a film clip, he's in one of our film clips where he and I wake up in bed together, which is an absolute cackle.
Did you guys record Ugly Produce at his house?
It wasn't Ugly Produce. It was our second album that he produced. So we actually we were on tour through the States, and it was the plan to record at his recording studio on his property called the Nosferatu's Lair. But we spent a month, about, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months before that, at a friend of ours' parents' place in Vermont. So we stayed in the States, and they very kindly let us set up all their stuff in their barn in the middle of the hills. And we pretty much wrote the album there, and then caught up with Phil as part of another tour package, I think, and sort of spent a lot of time. He's very, I guess, in depth. Spent a lot of time listening to all of that stuff. And had a lot of great feedback before we even got into the studio. And then, every day it was, Phil was there really, really giving great input to the songs and how they were structured and, what fucking sounded good, which it did. Fucking grass.
So as a bass player, how did you get your start on bass?
So I guess I fell into the music lovers group at my school. I started playing bass when I was 13 or 14. A good friend of mine, Tim Glynn, who's now passed, but he was really supportive and got me into it. I guess I was very lucky. That group of friends, there were three brothers whose family had this amazing house and very supportive of creativity. So they set up this amazing space for us to play music, and we were all into metal. So we'd spend that was school holidays, after school, just practicing, playing music, that sort of thing. Just went through every different type of bass guitar. I had an Alien at one point, the headless ones with the tuning pegs at the bottom. It was a place you were allowed to make noise and have a lot of fun. So that's how I started.
Who were like some of your early bass player influences? Were you did you get real into certain guys, like you were in a Geezer Butler phase, or was it just like you're playing what you're playing?
Yeah, definitely Geezer. And I'm also really proud of the fact, I think, that I was very, very heavily influenced by local music. So, as I said, Fridge was Squizz's band. There's a band called the Meanies, who, Wally Meaney, an amazing bass player who, used to learn all his riffs. And then as I got into more heavy metal, I suppose, we had Blood Duster, Damaged, Abramelin, all these bands you can look up. But definitely I sought out to learn the bass of those bands. I guess I lucked out in the sense that I did like a lot of local music. Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get geeky, what kind of bass are you running? Do you run, also I wanted to ask, do you run different gear at home than you would here?
I do, just out of sort of more convenience. My guitars come with me. So I have a Rickenbacker 4003S, which always makes me laugh. It's like S for special, but they're kind of the least special Rickenbackers. They don't have the Ricky dual input. They don't have beautiful inlays or the lining around the outside. It's just stripped back, dot inlays, one input, and I love it. And if you've ever seen it, I can send you some photos, but I call it my hammer. It's a tool. It's ridden hard and put away wet. It's one guy, singer from Cattle Decapitation, said that I'd given him inspiration and an idea to do a coffee table book about the patina of people's guitars, because my guitar is fucking disgusting. I tend to work out on stage and sweat a little bit, and it's. When I go to have a guitar set up, I usually see the guy's face afterwards. It's like, yeah, thank you very much. We did what we could. So that's my ride or die. I have that. I have a BC Rich Mockingbird from a previous endorsement, which I love. It sounds amazing. I use that at home. It's just, it's a long scale. I'm a short bloke. So it makes more sense just to use that at home. Yeah, but the Ricky I absolutely love. It's 93. It probably looks, I was looking at it today, it could be mistaken for 61 or something. It's just cracking up, the paint's coming off. And I love it to death. It's people sort of see it oh, why would you do that? I'm like, why wouldn't I? I love playing this thing, and I'm gonna play it hard and fuck around. They're not, some people, and I respect it, put it in your room or put it on your wall, but I'm lucky enough that I get to fucking use it every day. Yeah, my hammer.
Yeah, man. That's tight. And I know you get on the song Bozo, there's like some real grind on that tone. So like, what are you running for amps, and are you a pedal
sure.
guy?
So not a massive pedal guy. I keep it really, really simple, but I use a guitar pedal. It's an older Ibanez. I've had a few iterations of it, but essentially it's Ibanez Sonic Distortion. What did Ibanez then became, or they sold those to another company. Anyway, like essentially that's what I run and have run always. A few different sounds get dropped in recording, just for whatever, I guess, brings out or where it needs to sit, I suppose. But yeah, it sounds great. Like it especially with the Rick, you get a lot of top, I suppose. And it seems to work. I think prior to that, I've played in bands all my life, but quite honestly, I think I've only ever used distortion in one other band and not full stop. Yeah, we keep things fairly basic in King Parrot as well. It's not, we're not expanding intelligence musically, really. Yeah, so I've got the latest Peavey. I can't remember the actual one it is, and that's terrible. I'm fucking awful. Clearly, that's why Peavey doesn't regularly endorse me. But I run that. Australia, America, we run off different power systems. The great thing about this thing is that you can put it in your bag and then switch out the fuse when you get back to Australia, and it works. Like a lot of people with international amplification, they bring it with them. You're hiring these massive converters, and it's that's yet another really fucking heavy thing you got to carry around. Over here, I've got a PV 8x10 and PV amplification, as well as an acoustic backup, which is 300 watts and still belts out a bunch of power. Actually, it's great. Yeah. So that's my thing. That's my rig. I use a wireless system because I like to run around and fucking pretend to dance and do the pogo and all sorts of shit. You'll see.
Like you said, you don't want to bring extra shit along. What kind of touring tips do you have for like up and coming bass players that are starting to get into it?
Yeah, well, this time around I've got 2 guitars. I think importantly, spend the money on good cases and protection, because if you're gonna, even just getting thrown into a trailer, but if you're gonna get on a plane, that shit, it's your pride and joy. And yeah, whilst getting those cases and stuff is expensive, it's worth it. But yeah, I guess try and work out what your rig is, and it's still a learning thing, like kind of boring, I suppose, maybe, but just actually how best can I even set up my, whilst I'm simple, like a transmitter, receiver, a tuning pedal, a pedal, leads, how can I best, when you've got to throw on and throw off on a stage, how can I get better at it? Like, we're always trying to work that sort of shit out. And again, I am the ramshackler who always fucks stuff up. So the best I can set it up is it's always good. And I'm always open to receiving help.
Last question. When you come back to the States, what are you most excited for? Like
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. No. They're not as readily available in Australia. I actually am a size small in Australia, and then when I get here, yeah. What do I look forward to? I think the opportunity to play so much. Like, Australia is... The continent is roughly the same size as the USA, which always spins me out. But, the whole middle part's a desert, so no one lives there. So when we go out on tour in Australia, and we usually do 2 tour cycles a year in Australia, so we've always been a band with the ethos of like AC/DC or something, is like, go play all the country towns, play to 5, 10, 100 people, wherever, and then the second time around we do all the capital cities. We find that, people, when you make that effort to take music to the country areas, that then people return that, they appreciate it and they get involved, and then they're the ones driving the long distances to come to those capital shows, the bigger shows, I guess. So what I get excited about when we come to a place like America or Europe or whatever is that we can actually be on the road and playing a show in a different, town every night. And, look, club shows or big shows, whatever, but, it's just so much more set up, I guess, for that to happen. You could tour around America, finish, and then start again. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. All right. Well, I think I've taken enough of your time. Is there anything else you want?
No, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, cheers.
Cool, thank you.